Since mid-2024, 11 American scientists have either died under suspicious circumstances or vanished without a trace. Not ordinary scientists, scientists who held security clearances, scientists who worked on nuclear weapons, classified aerospace programs, fusion energy research, and planetary defense systems. Scientists who had access to some of the most sensitive technology the United States government possesses. One of them walked away from his home carrying only a handgun and has never been found. Another was shot dead on the porch of his own house. Another disappeared while hiking and left no trace. Another was found in a frozen lake months after she went missing. 3 words that changed how the entire country was looking at this story. He called it pretty serious stuff. He said he had just come from a meeting on the subject. And he told the press that within a week and a half, he expected to know whether these cases were connected. A federal investigation is now underway. And the question hanging over every single one of these cases is the same question that nobody has been able to answer yet. Are these deaths and disappearances random tragedies? Or is something much darker happening to the people who know America's most dangerous secrets? To understand why this story has rattled Washington, you need to understand who these people were and what they knew. This was not a random collection of academics or researchers working on theoretical problems. Nearly every person on this list had direct ties to the most sensitive programs in the United States government. Several worked at Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico, the same facility where the atomic bomb was developed during the Manhattan Project, and which continues today to design and maintain America's nuclear warheads. Others worked at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California, where classified aerospace and planetary defense research is conducted. One was the director of MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center, a program working on the future of nuclear fusion energy. One was a retired United States Air Force Major General who had commanded the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, one of the most secretive military research facilities in the country. These were not peripheral figures. They were people at the center of America's most critical national security technology. The cases began accumulating quietly, one by one, starting in 2023. Michael David Hicks, a 59-year-old research scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, died unexpectedly in July 2023. He had worked on the DART project, NASA's mission to test whether humans could deflect a dangerous asteroid away from Earth by slamming a spacecraft into it, and on the Deep Space One mission. His death was listed as unexpected, but did not immediately raise alarms. The following year, Frank Mywald, 61, another NASA JPL researcher, died unexpectedly in 2024. Mywald had been the lead researcher on a breakthrough that scientists described as potentially able to help future space missions detect clear signs of life on other worlds. 2 JPL researchers, both dead within roughly a year of each other. The pattern had not yet taken shape in the public mind. Then the disappearances began. Stephen Garcia, 48, was a government contractor at the Kansas City National Security Campus, a facility in Albuquerque, New Mexico that manufactures more than 80% of all non-nuclear components that go into building the United States military's nuclear weapons. On August 28, 2025, Garcia left his home on foot. He left behind his phone, his wallet, his keys, and his car. He took only a handgun. He has never been seen again. Surveillance footage captured him leaving. No one has found him. The National Nuclear Security Administration, which operates the Kansas City campus, said it was aware of reports and looking into the matter. But Garcia was gone, and there were no answers. Weeks before Garcia disappeared, Monica Jacinto Reza had already vanished. Reza was a 60-year-old aerospace engineer and the director of materials processing at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. She had spent her career developing Mondalloy, a nickel-based superalloy used in rocket engines, and her work was directly funded through a program overseen by the Air Force Research Laboratory. On June 22, 2025, Reza went hiking near the Mount Waterman area of California's Angeles National Forest with friends. She was last seen at 9:10 in the morning at the 6,000-foot gate on Angeles Crest Highway. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department launched a massive multi-agency search. Helicopters, K-9 units, experienced mountain search teams. None of it produced any trace of her. Monica Reza, one of the leading aerospace materials scientists in the country, simply disappeared into the mountains and has never been found. In the same summer, Anthony Chavez, a 78-year-old former Los Alamos National Laboratory employee, was last seen walking away from his home in Los Alamos on May 8, 2025. His car was locked in the driveway. He had no phone with him. He left no note. He has not been seen since. Then, just 1 month after Garcia vanished, Melissa Casillas, a 53-year-old administrative worker at Los Alamos National Laboratory, was last seen on June 26, 2025, walking alone on a highway in Taos County, New Mexico, wearing a backpack. She had left behind her car, her purse, her keys, and both of her phones, one of which had been factory reset before she disappeared. Her niece later told reporters that Melissa was an administrative assistant who did not have high-level security clearance. But the fact that 4 people connected to nuclear and aerospace programs had disappeared in the same region within months of each other was beginning to attract attention from people who pay close attention to national security patterns. December 2025 brought the case that would eventually push the entire pattern into national headlines. Nuno Loureiro was a 47-year-old nuclear physicist, MIT professor, and the director of MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center, one of the most advanced nuclear fusion research programs in the world. On the evening of December 15, 2025, Loureiro was shot at his home in Brookline, Massachusetts. He died in the hospital the following day. Investigators eventually identified the shooter as Claudio Neves Valente, a 48-year-old Portuguese national and former engineering student who had attended the same program as Loureiro years earlier at a university in Portugal. Valente had also carried out a mass shooting at Brown University just one day before killing Loureiro, killing 2 students and wounding 9 others before being found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot in a New Hampshire storage facility 2 days later. Investigators said the motive remained unclear, with authorities stating there were still a lot of unknowns. A world-class nuclear fusion scientist was dead, killed by a former classmate who had just committed a mass shooting, and nobody could fully explain why. 2 months later, in February 2026, Carl Grillmeyer, a 67-year-old Caltech astrophysicist known for his research on galaxy collisions and the search for water on planets outside our solar system, was found shot dead on the porch of his home in Llano, California. A 29-year-old man named Freddie Snyder was arrested and charged with murder, burglary, and carjacking. Investigators said they did not believe the 2 men knew each other. No motive was disclosed. Snyder had previously been arrested in December after trespassing on Grillmeyer's property while carrying a rifle, and then, 2 months later, came back and killed him. In the same month that Grillmeyer was murdered, retired Air Force Major General William McCasland, 68, disappeared from his home near Albuquerque, New Mexico. McCasland had commanded the Air Force Research Laboratory, the primary research and development arm of the United States Air Force. His wife told a 911 operator that he had planned not to be found. His wallet and his prescription glasses were left behind. He took a .38 caliber revolver. He has not been found. Jason Thomas, a 45-year-old pharmaceutical researcher who had worked at Novartis, left his home in Wakefield, Massachusetts on the night of December 12, 2025, and did not return. Police searched for months. In March 2026, after a previously frozen lake thawed, a body was recovered from Lake Quannapowitt. Preliminary identification based on clothing suggested it was Thomas. The district attorney's office stated that no foul play was suspected, but the medical examiner was still working to confirm identity and cause of death. And then there was Amy Eskridge, a 34-year-old aerospace scientist from Huntsville, Alabama, who had co-founded an organization called the Institute for Exotic Science and described her work as focused on experimental anti-gravity propulsion concepts. Before her death in 2022 from a reported self-inflicted gunshot wound, Eskridge had stated on a podcast that her life was in danger. She had said, "We discovered anti-gravity, and our lives went to hell, and people started sabotaging us. No public investigative report from police or medical examiners on her case has ever been released. 11 cases, spanning from 2022 to 2026, all involving people tied to nuclear weapons, classified aerospace programs, fusion energy, planetary defense, or advanced propulsion research." Former FBI Assistant Director Chris Swecker reviewed the cases and told reporters that they are all suspicious, and these are scientists who have worked in critical technology. The National Nuclear Security Administration confirmed it was aware and looking into the matter, but for months the federal government produced no coordinated public response, until Fox News reporter Peter Doocy asked White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt about it directly on April 15, 2026. Doocy told Leavitt there were now 10 American scientists who had either gone missing or died since mid-2024, all with access to classified nuclear or aerospace material, and asked whether anyone was investigating whether the cases were connected. Leavitt said she'd not spoken to relevant agencies about it yet, but that she would, and that if true, it was definitely something the government would deem worth looking into. Wright said, "A lot of the nuclear security scientists are in DOE, so yes, of course, we're looking into this." The House Oversight Committee formally demanded answers. A Republican congressman from Missouri noted publicly that several of the missing scientists had left their homes without their phones, and stated flatly, "This is not normal." The White House promised what it called a holistic review, with no stone left unturned. The National Nuclear Security Administration and intelligence agencies that oversee classified programs at national laboratories. The cases span New Mexico, California, Massachusetts, and Alabama. They involve nuclear weapons design, rocket engine materials, fusion energy, astrophysics, planetary defense, and experimental propulsion. Law enforcement officials working the individual cases have largely said they see no links between them. Former DOE officials have noted that the combined facilities involved employ more than 20,000 people, and that deaths and disappearances in a population that large are statistically inevitable over several years. One former department staffer told CBS News bluntly that people just die from strokes, heart disease, suicide, and accidents, and that he had seen no evidence of any connection. The FBI has not issued a public statement on a coordinated investigation across the cases, but the details of the individual cases are what make it difficult to accept simple explanations. 4 people who walked away from their homes without their phones, a nuclear weapons facility contractor who left behind everything including his car and took only a gun, a JPL aerospace engineer who vanished in the mountains without a trace, a retired 4-star general who disappeared in February and whose wife told police he planned not to be found, a fusion physicist murdered days after a mass shooting by a former classmate with an unexplained motive, an astrophysicist shot dead on his own porch by a man who had already been arrested for trespassing on his property with a rifle 2 months earlier and was released. These are not cases that feel random when you line them up next to each other. Whether or not they are connected, they do not look like coincidence, and that is exactly what makes the federal investigation that is now underway so significant, because the answer, whatever it turns out to be, will either confirm a pattern that has national security implications for the United States, or it will reveal something about how the human mind constructs connections that may not be there. Either answer is going to matter, and either answer is going to be one of the most consequential things the Trump administration reveals in the months to come.